There's this persistent myth out there.
Hmm.
It's probably the most common thing you hear when you tell someone you're looking at a horse race.
Oh, yeah, I know it's coming.
It's the idea that betting on racing is basically just gambling on luck.
All luck.
Right. You pick a name that sounds cool, maybe you like the purple and green silks, or you just have this gut feeling that the gray horse is due for a win.
And honestly, that is exactly how the industry makes its money.
Hmm.
The bookmakers absolutely love the gut feeling punters.
It's their bread and butter.
It is. If everyone bet with, logic,
Mhm.
the lights in Vegas or the local betting shop
Yeah.
would go dim pretty quickly.
Exactly. But today, we are flipping that script. We are going on a mission to move from that guesswork to hard, cold, data-driven logic.
Yeah.
We've gone through a massive stack of notes from professional racing analysts, people who do this for a living, and we are going to break down exactly how they find an edge.
And just to be clear right off the top, this isn't about having a crystal ball.
Mm-hmm.
It's not magic. It's about understanding that information, real deep information, is the only way to find value in the odds.
Right.
If you're looking at the same three numbers on the TV screen that everyone else is, you're not going to beat the market. You need a better process.
So to get us there, we are going to unpack 3 massive pillars of professional handicapping today. First, we're going to settle the debate between looking backward and looking forward.
Speed figures versus pace ratings.
Exactly.
Two things that sound almost identical to the uninitiated, but are, totally different tools.
Then we're going to talk about a fascinating phenomenon called the race falling apart, which I have to say when I first read it sounded catastrophic.
It sounds bad, and for the favorite in the race, it is a disaster. But for you, it's actually one of the most profitable angles you can find if you know what you're looking for.
And finally, we are going to take a peek behind the curtain at a massive, almost industrial-grade analytical framework.
Yep.
We're talking about a system that uses 257 variables to make a decision.
It's intense, but it really represents the difference between a hobbyist having a flutter and a professional executing a strategy.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the basics that get confused all the time. Speed figures versus pace ratings.
Right.
To the average person, those sound like synonyms. Fast is fast, right? If a horse is fast, it wins.
You would think so, but they are fundamentally different tools for different jobs. Think of it this way. Speed figures are a history lesson. They tell you what has already happened.
Okay.
Pace ratings are a weather forecast. They try to predict what is going to happen.
Okay, I like that analogy. Let's dig into the history lesson first. Speed figures. I assume this is more than just looking at the clock and seeing who ran 5 furlongs the fastest.
Oh, much more. Because raw time is incredibly deceptive.
How so?
Well, if a horse runs a mile at a track in California on a rock-hard surface, sunny day, and another horse runs a mile at a track in the UK on a rainy Tuesday in the mud,
You can't compare them.
you can't just compare the stopwatches. The California horse looks 5 seconds faster, but that doesn't mean it's a better horse.
Because the mud, the going, slows them down.
The mud, the winds, the undulations of the track, even the rail position. A speed figure is a numerical calculation that strips away all those variables. It standardizes the performance. It answers the question, if every track was exactly the same, how fast did this horse actually run?
So it levels the playing field.
Exactly. It allows you to compare apples to apples. It tells you, historically, how fast a horse is capable of running regardless of where they ran.
So that's your starting point for raw ability.
That's it. In the UK, for example, analysts rely heavily on things like the Racing Post top speed figures.
I saw a specific name in the notes that kept popping up regarding this. Lawrence Taylor.
Yes, Lawrence Taylor speed ratings. You'll often find these on sites like At the Races. They are very popular because they take all that complex math we just talked about and simplify it into a tabular format. They basically highlight the 4 fastest horses in the race based on that historical data.
So if I'm a listener opening a race card and I'm overwhelmed by data, that's my quick filter.
It's your resume check. Who is fast? Who struggles to keep up? It sets the baseline of ability.
Right.
If a horse doesn't have the speed figures to match the leaders, it basically has no chance unless something really crazy happens.
Okay, so that's the resume, that's the ability. But as we know in sports, the team with the best stats on paper doesn't always win the game.
No, they don't. And that leads us perfectly to pace ratings. Remember, speed is the history, pace is the forecast.
Right.
Because having the ability to run fast is one thing. Being able to run fast in the specific scenario of today's race is another thing entirely.
So pace ratings analyze the flow.
The expected flow, or tempo, of the race. Early, middle, and late stages.
This is where we get into running styles, isn't it? Because not every horse runs the same way.
It is. Every horse has a preferred way of running, almost like a personality type. Is the horse a front runner who needs to lead?
Or a stalker.
A stalker
Yeah.
who likes to sit just behind and pounce? Or is it a closer or hold-up horse who sits way back and comes storming home at the very end?
And pace ratings map all this out.
They take the projected running styles of every horse in the field and sort of simulate how the race will flow. It creates a map of the race before the gates even open.
So, practically speaking, how does an expert use this to make money? Because knowing who likes to lead seems, I don't know, a bit basic.
It seems basic until you spot the conflict. That's the key word. Conflict. Conflict. You might look at a race and say, okay, my selection has the highest speed figure. He's the fastest horse. But the pace ratings might tell you, wait a minute, this horse likes to lead. But there are 3 other horses in this race who also only win when they lead.
So they are going to fight for
A
it.
huge fight.
Huh?
They're going to cut each other's throats up front. And that conflict changes everything.
I see.
The pace rating helps you forecast the shape of the race. You might conclude, I expect my selection to burn out trying to get the lead. Or conversely, I expect my selection to be running on strongly when the others have cried enough.
Cried enough. I love that phrase. It implies a breaking point,
It is a breaking point. It's physical exhaustion.
which perfectly transitions us to our second pillar. Because when horses reach that breaking point, you get this specific phenomenon called the race falling apart.
Yes, this is a term you hear pros use all the time, but casual fans often misunderstand it.
Yeah, I have to clarify this because when I first saw the header, the race fell apart, I pictured a pileup or a loose horse, just total chaos, but that's not it, is it?
No, not at all. It's a figurative term, but a very, very important one.
So what is it?
When a race falls apart, it simply means the race didn't go to script for the favorites, usually because the pace was completely unsustainable.
It refers to the front runners.
The front runners cook themselves.
He took himself.
They burn out completely. They run so hard in the early stages, usually fighting for that lead we just talked about, that they have nothing left for the finish. They hit the wall.
So they are running on fumes.
Empty tanks.
Yeah.
And this allows an outsider or a horse with a hold-up style one that was sitting at the back doing nothing to just sweep past and win.
So how do we spot this before it happens? Because if we can predict a collapse, that seems like a massive opportunity to bet on a long shot that nobody else is looking at.
It is the definition of value. You are betting against the public's favorites because you know they're walking into a trap.
Okay.
And there are specific mechanics to look for. The biggest one is what I like to call the rule of 3.
The rule of 3. Break that down for us.
It's simple, but it's deadly effective.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the field and you see 3 or more horses that are dedicated front runners, horses that need to lead to win, you have a recipe for disaster.
Because they can't all lead. Physics doesn't work that way.
They can't. But they usually won't back down. Jockeys have their orders, so they will take each other on, setting a blistering, overambitious early pace.
They disrupt the rhythm.
Totally. By the time they hit the final furlong, they are completely vulnerable.
And that's when the hold-up horse, who has been conserving energy, looks like a superstar.
Exactly. To the casual viewer, it looks like the winner just suddenly accelerated, like they hit a turbo button.
Mm-hmm.
But usually, it's not that the winner went faster,
It's that everyone else went slower.
it's that everyone else went slower. That's a great distinction.
Now, the sources mention that it's not just the other horses that cause this. The track itself plays a huge role in breaking a horse's heart.
A huge role. Some tracks are just designed to punish front runners who go too fast.
Specifically, Newmarket came up in the research. What's special about Newmarket?
The Rowley Mile at Newmarket. It is famous for this.
Yeah.
It's a wide, very open track. There is absolutely no shelter. Now, imagine you are a front runner. You are out there in the lead, exposed. If there is a strong headwind coming down that track, you are taking a beating the entire way.
You're the windbreaker for the rest of the field.
You are. You are doing all the work. The horses behind you are just drafting like cyclists in the Tour de France. That physical toll is immense.
Wow.
In those conditions, 3 front runners plus a headwind at Newmarket, the leaders almost always fail.
And Sandown was the other one mentioned.
Sandown is brutal for a different reason. It has a stiff uphill finish, especially in races over a mile.
So you're running uphill right when you're most tired.
Exactly. Imagine sprinting for a mile, and then the last 200 yards is a steep hill. If a jockey misjudges the tempo and goes too hard early at Sandown, that hill will find them out.
It exposes them.
It exposes any horse running on empty. You'll see them literally slowing down to a crawl in the final yards.
So we have the visual cues, the headwind, the hill, the number of front runners, but we promised data. Are there numbers that confirm a race fell apart?
Yes, specifically sectionals. We are looking for a race with fast early fractions, followed by very slow final times.
Slow final times, that seems backwards. Don't winners run fast?
Not in a race that falls apart. In this specific scenario, the winner might actually cross the line in a relatively slow time for the final furlong.
Because everyone else has stopped.
Simply because everyone else has stopped. The winner is just the one slowing down the least.
It's a war of attrition.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at data from places like Timeform, they use a metric called finishing speed percentage.
How does that work?
It compares the speed at the end of the race to the speed of the rest of the race. If the race was run evenly, you'd expect something near 100%.
Okay.
But if you see a finishing speed of, say, 94 or 96%, that is a glaring red flag.
That means they were effectively walking across the line.
It means the leaders went too hard, blew up, and the race fell apart.
So if I'm listening to this and I want to apply it, I see the rule of three leaders in the lineup. Maybe I see it's a stiff track.
You stop looking at the favorites. You immediately start looking for the closers, the horses with a hold-up style. That is where you find the 20-1 or 25-1 winner that everyone else missed.
Because they were too focused on the fast horses from the speed figures.
Exactly.
That is huge. It completely changes how you view the race card. It's like seeing the matrix code behind the race.
It really is. You stop watching the horses and start watching the geometry of the race.
Okay, so we've got the past with speed figures, the future with pace ratings, and the chaos with the race falling apart. But now I want to zoom out, or maybe zoom way in, because professional analysis isn't just checking 3 or 4 things.
No, it's an engine.
The sources describe a decision engine, and they reference a legend in the gambling world, Bill Benter. I think we need to briefly mention him for context.
Oh, for sure. Bill Benter is essentially the godfather of computer-assisted betting. He revolutionized Hong Kong racing in the 80s and 90s. He built a model that used something like 120 or 130 variables to predict winners.
Which was unheard of at the time.
Unheard of. People were using maybe 5 variables: weight, jockey, trainer, speed. And he made millions. He proved that if you have enough data and you weight it correctly, you can beat the odds.
So the framework we're looking at today, is this the Benter model?
It's an evolution of that kind of thinking. It takes it even further. We're talking about a system that uses 257 core variables, plus over 100 internal rules to process them.
257 variables. I mean, I can barely remember my own phone number sometimes. What could possibly be in there? How do you even organize that?
Well, it's important to understand that not all 257 variables are created equal. You don't just throw them in a bucket and stir.
Okay.
The system organizes them into tiers. You have tier 1, which is the primary factors. These decide about 70 to 80% of the chance.
Give us an example of a tier 1 variable. What matters the most?
Class is the big one. Specifically, is the horse down in class today?
Explain class for someone who might not know the terminology.
Think of it like sports leagues. You have the Premier League and you have the local division. If a horse was racing against elite competition last week, grade 1 or class 2, and is now dropping down to race against average horses in class 4.
That's a massive indicator.
It's a huge statistical indicator. It's LeBron James showing up at a high school game.
Right, even on a bad day.
Even on a bad day, his baseline ability is just higher. So the system weighs class drop very heavily. Another tier 1 is simply, has the horse been competitive at this class before? It filters out the dreamers.
Okay, so tier 1 is the heavy hitters. What about tier 2?
Tier 2 is context. This is where it gets nuanced. This is where you find the edge when the tier 1 stuff is obvious to everyone.
Like what?
For example, distinguishing between hot form and key form races.
I would have thought those were the same thing.
Subtle but important difference. Hot form is immediate. Did the horse run in a race recently where the other runners from that race have since come out and won?
Ah, so if I finished 5th, but the 4 guys who beat me all went on to win next week.
Then your 5th place finish was actually really good. That validates the form now.
And keyform races.
These are historical producers. There are certain annual races, maybe a specific handicap at Ascot or a particular maiden race at Newbury, that just always produce future champions. It's a historical trend.
And the market might not have caught on yet.
Spotting a horse coming out of a keyform race before the market realizes it, that is a classic Tier 2 edge.
One thing that really struck me in this list was that it includes visual analysis. I tend to think of data as spreadsheets, but this engine is quantifying how a horse looks.
Yes, and this is something every listener can learn to spot. You don't need a supercomputer for this. The system asks, how did the horse finish its last race? And specifically, it looks for something called paddling.
Paddling, like in a canoe.
A bit less graceful than that. You know when you see a swimmer who is totally exhausted and they're splashing water everywhere but barely moving forward?
Right, they're fighting the water.
A horse does the same thing. When a horse is empty, completely out of energy, its head goes up, its stride shortens, its legs start to look like they're going everywhere but nowhere.
Choppy.
Choppy and unbalanced. That is paddling. It means the tank is empty, the horse gave everything and hit a wall.
And you contrast that with a strong finish.
Right. What does that look like? The head is steady, low, the stride is opening up, gulping up ground. They're galloping through the line, not just to the line.
Even if they lose.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Even if that horse finished 5th or 6th, if it was finishing strong while the horses ahead of it were paddling, that is a horse to mark for next time.
So the result says 5th place, but the visual data says full of running.
Exactly. The engine captures that and flags it as a positive variable.
That's fascinating. So the engine takes the class drop, the keyform, the visuals, the RPR,
Sorry, RPR.
racing post rating.
Right. It compares the horse's last RPR against the average of today's rivals. It checks if the horse was unlucky, maybe it got blocked in traffic.
Right.
It aggregates all these tiny slivers of information, 257 of them, to output a single probability.
And that brings us back to the core mission we started with. Moving from, I like that name, to the data says this is value.
That's the key word, value. We aren't trying to predict the winner of every race. That's impossible.
No.
We are trying to find situations where the probability of a horse winning is higher than the odds the bookie's offering.
It's all about price.
Exactly. If the engine says a horse has a 20% chance to win and the bookie is paying out like it has a 5% chance, you bet that every time.
Right.
Over the long run, the math wins.
So let's wrap this up. What does this all mean for the person listening right now? They don't have the 257 variable engine in their pocket.
No, but they can simulate the process. You need to layer your thinking. Don't just look at one thing.
So start with ability.
Start with the ability. That's your speed figures. Who is fast enough to win? Then look at the scenario.
The pace readings.
Right. Is the race going to fall apart?
Yeah.
Are there 3 front runners who are going to kill each other off into a headwind? And then you apply the context.
The variables.
Is the horse dropping in class?
Yeah.
Did it paddle last time, or did it finish strong? Was it unlucky?
It sounds like a lot of work compared to just picking the gray horse.
It is work. But that's why it's profitable. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it, and there would be no value left. The market misses things. It misses the paddlers. It misses the headwinds.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. It changes how you watch the sport. You stop watching the horse in the lead.
When you start watching the geometry of the race, you start watching the friction, the invisible things slowing horses down.
So I want to leave the listener with a provocative thought. The next time you open a race card, or you're watching a race on TV, ask yourself, are you playing the game the bookies want you to play?
Yeah. Looking at the favorites and the colors?
Or are you running your own mental decision engine?
Ask yourself, who is really going to break the tape, and who is just setting the stage for a collapse?
Look for the paddlers, look for the closers, and look for that invisible headwind on the rally mile.
That's where the edge is.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time.